My name is Peter Zuspan. I am an architect here in New York. I've been on faculty at the Barnard-Columbia undergraduate architecture department, I think, for 5 years. I'm not entirely sure, I can't remember. I did my undergraduate here, both in architecture and music, and then I took some time off and then went back to graduate school to get a master's in architecture, also at Columbia. So I certainly know the campus quite well, for better or for worse. I mean, I'm definitely a little bit of a romantic. I like things to have a little bit of a difficulty to them or an edge to them, and to not be this sort of utopian kind of project. I think in that sense Lerner Hall certainly did a good job. It certainly made people think about it for better or for worse. I know that a lot of students sort of despise it, whereas some, I think, there are some that do enjoy the building. It's a tricky one to get into. But I do know some of Shumi's rhetoric in general, which, I mean, one of the things he talks about quite a bit is taking concepts of program in spaces and crossing them and having these sort of awkward, but also he thinks, productive way. One of the phrases, I think, if I'm misquoting it from one of his books, is the javelin thrower or the high jumper in the catacombs. It's this weird cross programming of something where, like, a catacombs which has a clear use, right? But at the same time throwing something in there that's going to do something strange. And as much as people might think of the building as perhaps brutalist, that they have to walk up to the 5th floor and to get their mail and then take all these ramps and staircases as opposed to a more simple way, I think there is a logic there for whether it's successful or not, to allow that haphazard interaction between people to happen. But there are, I think, a lot of opportunities in Columbia's campus that they should utilize more. I mean, the crazy juxtaposition in the heights between the north side of the campus and the southern side of the campus. They've started to do with Moneo's building on the corner and being able to enter there and go up to this cafe and the steps. And, they're starting to open that up and play with that crazy height and this hidden gym. I think there's a lot of opportunities there that I think they should be more playful with. I mean, the university has a fairly difficult history with expansion. I mean, obviously that which happened in the 60s, as well as now, the university has been very private about their Manhattanville project, because certainly their expansion in the 60s is what caused quite a big student revolt. So in that sense, I think there is a lesson a little bit that the university could learn there, which would be to try to think about, inwardly focusing that energy and thinking not necessarily about the expansion model in terms of moving outside of the campus, but how can it actually take it inside and make the inside of the campus perhaps both more interesting, perhaps taller. Frankly, I'm for the skyscrapers as they come, because I think it's an interesting experiment, which is what the university should be doing. Given New York's density, I think there's actually a real opportunity to use that density, which translates into height of buildings, perhaps in a productive way. And so I think the students' jobs on a certain level should be, how can we actually challenge what the university stipulates that we should be using these spaces for? I mean, not necessarily through guerrilla tactics, which has certainly happened, although sometimes those can be very productive, but also, challenging the university to say that, these are specific spaces and we think this thing could happen here, let's make this happen. The administration, while certainly often making good decisions, they make bad ones as well. And the students, I think, know and have a more progressive idea about what those places could be often than the administration. I think Rem Koolhaas said it at one point, but the architect's sort of nemesis is the historic preservationist, right? I mean, our agenda is to create new things. So in that sense, I'm always, at least on some level, biased towards the new as opposed to that which is existing. And I certainly would always want the school to go way further than it does.